Three of you are in warm climates, and I'm stuck here in Wisconsin. So let's discuss. You and Tom know each other, right, Kathy?
Yes.
Great. Well, then, Kathy, what do you have for a question for our guest today?
Oh my goodness. Well, Tom, the last time I saw you, there was an amazing tribute to your wife, Bo Black, in Milwaukee, and I thought it was just an exceptional testament to all the hard work she did. And also, you were great. You kept the whole mood in a very festive kind of tone, and I just want to know how you're doing after all of those. It's a big change in your life. How are you doing?
Well, Kathy, good to see you. It's been a while, but yeah, that Bose thing was very important to everybody. She had a good send off, and she kind of left us on her own terms too, which was sad, but kind of the way things are sometimes. And I felt the city and a lot of the people that weren't very kind to her at one time came around and were very appreciative of her contributions, because you talk about a celebrity. She was big time.
Oh yeah.
She was
Oh
always
yeah.
synonymous with Milwaukee, as far as I was concerned. I mean, there was Bo, and for as long as I could remember, that's got to be a great feeling for you.
Yes, I mean, well, a great feeling for me is that 1994 she went out with me. That was a pretty big deal right there. That was pretty.
Oh, come on.
That was her mistake, but that was we had a pretty good run. It was a lot of fun, and she was something else, boy. She was an amazing woman, and had an amazing career and amazing impact on that community for sure.
Johnny, when was the last time you talked to Tom?
Oh man, it's been so long. It's good to see you, Trev.
Thank you, Johnny. Yeah, we had some fun. That was the main thing. We always try to have some fun. And nowadays I look out there and
yeah,
boy, I looked on the Giants. I was with the Giants for a while, and their staff was pretty big for the time. Now their staff is like seven guys that are coaching or doing something, and they all look so serious, and they have to get the devices out to check on this and check on that and make sure. And then I think back to 1960 when Ted Williams said, "You start the bat down, but then you have a slight uppercut." So I guess that's the launch angle. So I guess in 1960 he was talking about the launch angle.
they love that they love that they think they've created this whole new jargon, and if you don't talk their bullshit talk, then they don't want to hear from you. And it's crazy. The staffs are bigger than they've ever been in baseball. And I can speak specifically for the medical staffs, yet there's never been as many injuries. And it's just crazy. The entire staff gets to the ballpark at noon for a home game that's going to start at 7:05, and it's just overboard. Positions that there's a hitting coach, but now there's an assistant hitting coach, and there's an assistant pitching coach, and it's just ridiculous. It really is. I don't mean to bash them, but you just want to sit. You'd love to sit down. I know you'd be great. You'd love to sit down in the room and say, how much better have you made it, guys? How much better do you think you? Well, I know you think you made it better, but no, nobody steals.
Why do you think bases. They do that? Why do they just keep adding layers?
Well, number one, they have the money to do it. They've got so much money, whereas we were the opposite back in the 80s, early 90s, had no money. So I mean, gee, John, you want a ultrasound and stim machine for that trainer's room? No, I don't think we can do it this year. Or, Trev, you think we need another scout on the road and an advanced scout now that we're in the pennant? No, don't have the money, and it's just one thing after another. And Trev, I know you and I kind of touched on this about a year ago through emails, and I didn't mean to bash anybody. just me being me, but I just think back of that team streak in 1987. What a wasted year that was, because we rattled off 13 consecutive wins at the beginning of the season, never before done in the American League. And we did it all basically with 3 starting pitchers. And at one time we were 24-3, I believe. Think about that. 24-3. We've got our foot on the throat of every other team in the American League, and our front office won't, seize the moment and get a 4th starter or a 5th starter. We just won't do it. And well, we end up being 500 by the All-Star break, and we couldn't turn it around. So that was, to me, just a real bummer, because we let that season get away, and it was so much fun, like you said, Trev, and all that. But yeah, I mean, Dale and I did a podcast with Jim, and Dale was touting how great you were also he said, no manager ever taught me as much as Trev did. Mm-hmm. And I always tell people, I don't know why he did it, but Tom Trebelhorn let me be me, let John be John, which is so scary. Wow. And we won't even get into that, but, and he let Tony, a young Tony, be a new equipment man. And Tony and I just were thick as thieves, and he let us do our thing. He really did, for better or for worse. And I think it worked out well, and it was life-changing to me. So thank you, Trev.
You're very welcome, Johnny. We had a lot of laughs, and I probably went to the whip a little early in '87. Maybe I should have held back a little bit because I might have wore the boys out. But it was such an exciting time, and never been done and never been done since. And you talk about starting pitching. I was really a smart manager when I had Higuera 1 and Nieves 3, and when I lost those 2, boy, you talk about mediocrity. We had 5 guys get ready for the Brewers: sinker, slider, nothing overpowering, get ready. So load up with lefties and good luck. But we always battled, and right at the end the players played hard for me, and they at 91 June they made up their mind what to do, and they were nice enough not to can me then, so we got to finish pretty good, and then we left them in good shape. But then after 1 year it kind of went back to the same old thing. And I was kind of, I didn't mind Phil Garner taking over for me, because that's a good guy. Now, if they'd have hired one of these analytic guys today taking over, I might still be pissed off. But It was okay. It was a good run, and everything's good.
There's a lot of criticism today that Milwaukee's still in the same boat. They're not going to go after a championship, that they will spend, but they're not going to overspend. And there's a lot of people still pissed off about that. Is it a surprise to you, even with Seal's regime, that they're not going all out?
Well, I mean, they've got nice players, but they're not deep enough. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole thing. But let's face it, what percentage of teams start the year without a chance? It's more than ever before. I mean, you're in some markets and some places where they're making enough money from revenue from advertising and TV and radio and stuff that they can make a payroll. But probably of all the sports, baseball has more teams on opening day that don't have a chance, and that's kind of tough. That's kind of I mean, it's the way it is. But
it's stacked against you a little.
You start looking. I just saw a thing today about what the agents are making out of their 5%. The top agent now is making. I'm thinking this is ridiculous. Over $1 billion from the guys that he's gotten signed. Over $1 billion.
$1 billion?
Well, you think about it. If you're an agent and you have let's say just 6 top tier players, Scherzer, Kershaw, whatever, they're signing deals for 110 million.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, if you're getting 5% of that and you got 6 of those guys, you do the math. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some agents have more than 6. So,
Well,
the top guy who will go nameless has got a boatload of them.
oh yeah, yeah, and he's got a whole stable of people working under him.
Yes, yeah,
as
he's got overhead.
as they all do. But it's a crazy business. It's ruthless. That's for sure. But hey, Treb, did you see the podcast that Dale and I did with Jim?
Yes. I did.
Oh, okay. Did you know the answer to my question about who was our starting pitcher on Easter Sunday? That game?
Birkbeck. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think he went 4 or 5. I can't remember.
Did he go that far?
I think so.
You guys can remember the most incredible things.
Yep.
Blows
my mind, Kathy. I don't get it.
Half of that.
You know what kills me is like when PGA golfers will recount a round. Oh, on 8, I took that little chip shot, and I'm like, I don't remember the last time I took a bath. And these guys are remembering every shot they took. And
it's amazing you say that, Jim. I was when Kathy said that, I was going to say, yeah, baseball players remember certain games and they remember a big hit or a dinger or whatever. But I'll tell you what, and I worked on the PGA Tour for 10 years, and those guys remember every course they ever played. And when I would, and I'd say this to them, I says, I just shake my head and I'd say, somebody would bring up, congressional, on number 4, second shot in, I usually go with a long iron, but you got to clear that tree. Everyone's nodding like, oh yeah, no, I try and play right side, or I try. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. Every course they've ever played, they know every hole. It's just etched in their mind. It's amazing. But that's sports,
Yeah. I mean, that's news too. I will tell you that, having done like 40 years of news in the city of Milwaukee, I will be at an intersection and I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's where I interviewed that guy who said he was going to do this crazy thing. And most people would know it as the corner where McDonald's is across the street from, a gas station. It's like, but it is kind of incredible how you can simply, it takes something to do it though. You guys just seem to have, for you to say who pitched on Easter Sunday, wow.
Well, we're all irrational and compulsive. So that just explains it all.
Speak for yourself, Tom. Yeah.
Oh, Johnny.
I'm irrational, but I'm not compulsive.
Really?
Oh.
Hey, where are you? Are you in Portland?
No, I'm in Snobsdale, Arizona.
Oh, okay. I told Dale I thought you were still in the Valley of the Sun, but good.
I'm the last Eisenhower Republican in my neighborhood, which makes me a Biden guy today. So I'm out of place.
Yeah.
Hey, Trev, I used to write pretty heavily for the Brewers, and there was one story. People ask me what my favorite story is, and I just want to get a quick comment. This is how different the game is now. Up the ramp, there was a little video room now, and the only reason I was allowed in there is because I was for the Brewers and not a member of general media. So I was sitting there watching Ryan Braun in left field, and then the inning would change, and then he's behind me looking at this film of his last at bat. Do you know what I'm getting at here? This surreal kind of thing. It's like watching, Ted Williams out there, and then he's right behind me checking out his last at bat. Would you have enjoyed that kind of technology? It's truly amazing, and still my favorite story of any I've done that. I was in rarefied air there, but I know you were an early data guy, right? And I think that, what would that mean to you today if you were coaching? Would it be a benefit, or is it all bullshit?
Well, technology, any advances over the last 20 years have been almost due just the tremendous technology that's come forth. We now advanced scouts now are college guys with statistical backgrounds who just watch the MLB network and do all the scouting, all the advanced scouting, all the recording right off the live game. So we don't even have advanced scouts anymore. So we always use them. In fact, we were one of the first teams. I think Johnny remember Terry Lashin, the old retired fireman. He was my video guy with a little handheld 8mm camera down in Scottsdale, and then I had Johnny Logan shooting the radar gun, and Johnny Logan one night with this is our big technology boy. We're getting every pitch from Johnny Logan. I had signs up and down was 90, across was 85, and he'd go 90 and 2, and so all of a sudden he's giving me 55, and I'm going, come on, 55. Come to find out, in left field, he was getting the cars on the overpass in left field. So that was our technological advance.
I thought he was ordering beers. 5 beers.
Well, that could be true also. But Trev, for some reason, I mean, you talk about dating ourselves. Trev, how about the time we come back from a road trip, and I don't think it was a good one. We land, half the guys hop the bus. We go back to the stadium. It's probably 2 a.m. on a Sunday or something. And we're all getting out and we're kind of grabbing our stuff, half awake. And probably Tony and I are going down in the clubhouse to grab stuff. And you're doing this and that. Anyway, you had a typewriter you would bring. And anyway, you had luggage and we're parked right outside of those glass doors, like where Betty, was, and you put it down. We start doing stuff. Before we know it, the guy backs the bus up. The guy backs the bus up and runs over your typewriter.
Yes, that happened.
That,
you know who placed the typewriter there?
Andy Etchebarren?
Andrew Etchebarren. God rest his soul.
Yeah, God rest his ugly soul.
Ironhead set it down for me. He says, I'll get this for you. So I didn't worry about it. Next thing I know is
yeah.
And I was ahead of the time on that typewriter as far as managers go. I was pretty good. Yeah.
What the hell were you doing with a typewriter?
What were you typing?
He typed all the time. Hey, Trev, I'm going to call you out on one thing. Trev, how about the time I think you got kicked out of a game at home and you're just fuming as only you can fume. So you've got to get out of the dugout. So you walk up and there's a back door. Most people don't know, but it goes straight to your office. So you go in there and you're just steaming, and of all things, you want to get on your typewriter because you're in such a mood. You're going to answer some guy with your typewriter that had written something about you or something. And I think Tony came in and said something like, hey, Tom, what are you doing? Don't do that. Like, do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. I think it was the guy who called my Chuck Hartenstein, my Jew boy pitching coach. If I remember.
Oh my God.
Not only did I write him,
Hartenstein, who's the most
I called him.
Texan guy you've ever met your name, but he had a last name of Hartenstein.
Wait.
Oh my God.
You're saying a Milwaukee journalist actually wrote that?
No.
No, it's some fan mail from some.
Oh, okay.
This was a fan.
I broke a typewriter on the air. I broke a typewriter on the air when I was doing radio back in the day. And it was just this little, like, very small little radio station. We had sponsors, and the sponsor of the radio show was Steve's Typewriter. I mean, that was the name, so I had to say, so-and-so. Today's news brought to you by Steve's Typewriter.
That's hilarious.
And we had such cheap people in our operation that I'd been telling them over and over again that the typewriter table was wobbly and they needed to fix it. It was uneven and some's got to give. And the next thing you know, I hear the bell for some kind of a bulletin on the news. This is exciting. I can add, I've got a farm report. I'm in Iowa. I've got a typewriter for. I go and I rip that paper off, and somehow in the momentum there, the typewriter table starts just tipping, and this typewriter falls off the back of the typewriter while I'm doing the news, and it makes this horrendous sound, hits down on the ground, and the carriage just goes, and I'm like, oh my God. And there are the little typewriter keys are pelting me because they go flying in the air and they start hitting the news desk. And I just sort of like, I knew I was in trouble because it was my news or my general manager's typewriter from college that I'm using. And I said, well, before this newscast is over, if Steve is listening, perhaps he ought to come over and help me fix this typewriter. It was destroyed, just destroyed during a broadcast.
Johnny,
Johnny,
Smith Corona, no doubt.
It was a Corona. They fixed it, but they could never fix the E ever again, the little pad for the E. But we still had to use that typewriter. And your E's, you just had to fill them in strategically when you wrote your copy. And you'd just be like, and you know how often the E is in there? You'd just be adding E's in any blank space. It was insane. That sounds kind of like old baseball. Yeah.
Hey, Johnny, that's a Larry Haney. That's a topper right there.
Oh yeah.
Well,
No.
you know what? I
That's a
mentioned
topper.
to Jim so many times.
Oh, you talked about that topper guy. He had a story every time. I'm sorry. I can't believe I did a topper.
Yours,
Oh,
yeah.
yours was a true topper.
It really was.
Don't be sorry.
It's an honor.
Oh, I heard that podcast. Oh my God. That's such a good nickname.
Johnny gives me
that's one of the all-time nicknames is Topper, and it fits so perfect, you know, with his Southern drawl and everything.
Yeah.
And boy, he truly topped anything you said.
Right.
And it was either you let it annoy you or you laughed it off.
Exactly.
Whatever.
I got a brother-in-law that does that. He was here for yesterday, and you get to a point where you just go, all right, I could say I had triple bypass. He'd say, well, I had quadruple, you know, he'd go like that. But my favorite nickname is Earth Pig.
Oh, yeah.
That's a horrible nickname.
You know who it is, Treb?
Yes. Yeah.
How the hell does that come up? How'd you guys come up with that?
Have you ever seen him?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
I think it was a combination of that, how he looked, especially out of the shower, and then how he sounded when he ate.
Oh God!
It was a combination of the two. And
you call it? Was this to his face? You'd say this, Earth Pig, or was
only Simmons? Yeah.
Oh, Simba.
He'd either call him Simmons. Either would call him Earth Pig or Storm Damage.
But he was he had a very stylish attaché case. Remember that, Johnny? Had a beautiful piece of luggage, and it had mustard, ketchup, and peanuts.
Ketchup.
That's what he kept.
I didn't know if that was a myth or not, Treb. I didn't know if that was a myth. It was ketchup.
That's a true
ketchup
story.
On everything.
A suitcase
with ketchup, and I'd heard that from a few people. I think
he was always ready to eat.
Yeah, I mean, baseball players, by and large, are not born with a silver spoon in their mouth, you know, and some of them came from very humble beginnings. I mean, I remember Don Sutton telling me, you know, hey, he grew up in this little town in Alabama, and he said, sometimes I just walk out on the field, out in our field, and my mom would give me a packet of Ritz crackers. Just Ritz crackers. And I'd walk out there, and then I would occasionally pick real small little tomatoes, and I'd put them in between the crackers, and I'd eat them.
Oh,
that sounds pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Kathy, are you in Mexico?
Yes,
she is
I'm in Mexico.
¿Adónde?
Donde, Puerto Vallarta.
Oh, well, that's
half the year. I'm taking Spanish class. That's tomorrow. And I'll tell you, Spanish class is the most humbling thing in the world. I took French when I was in college and high school.
French is hard.
French is hard, and it gets in the way of Spanish. And so I'm trying to just immerse myself. This is my I call this my sort of graduate school. I retired. I moved to Mexico. I want to learn the culture, learn the language, and whatever. And I find that it's going to take me a while to get this accomplished. But
Now
we're
it's
doing
time
it.
to it's time to write that book, Kathy. The Kathy
No,
Meisterson story.
I don't have it in me. I don't think.
Hey Treb, one thing that always gets me is about managers handling media. When you knew that was coming up after the ninth inning, you had to face a gaggle of some smart and some idiotic people. Was that tough every day to have to get ready for that? But some days you were just, I don't need this.
Well, it was a lot easier when I managed. Now it's a press conference. We didn't have a press conference. We'd have our beat writer come in, win or lose, and if we won, maybe the other beat writer from the other side would come in. There'd be 3 or 4 guys, and that was it. But sometimes we had a couple guys. Most of the guys are really good because when I started, they traveled with us. I mean, they were on the same charter plane, so that made it a little different. But then we added a fellow that was I don't know what you say about him other than he was not real professional, nor didn't ask very intelligent questions. He probably at the end of the game he would ask the dumbest questions. So I remember one time in Seattle, I got thrown out of a game, and of course the first question, well, what did you think about that call? I said, well, let me tell you something, you dip. I thought it was so good, I got thrown out for over congratulating that guy. Oh, really? Well, that's enough. That's it, boys. We're done. Goodbye. You can't do that now. You just can't do it.
No.
But it's changed, and of course the following is bigger. You'd have you have got everybody in there after a game now. I mean, it's a press conference, and it's mandatory, and you got to do it, and you got to explain everything and why this happened, why that happened, and it's just the immediacy of Kathy's media there. It goes right out.
Yeah.
That keeps everybody entertained, and everybody at home is angry about what you did or didn't do, and they want to hear the answers and the reasons why, what's going to happen tomorrow, what place are you going to finish at the end of the year. I was never that smart, so I just I was lucky. I managed at a really good time, actually, all things considered.
Well, you know what? I think the whole time that we were in the game, in the big leagues, was some of the best times. It really was. And I'm sure everybody says that about the time they were in, but the 80s, the 90s, those were some great times. It was still simple enough, but the level of play was very good. And I think it was neat. And I will say this too, thinking about us, our coaches were characters. Mm-hmm. We say about Echebarren and people like that, but Frank Howard is, I mean, that is a cartoon character. It really is. And I used to tell other guys, everyone deserves to have Frank 1 year. Just because he's a legend and he's a cartoon character. He's just so damn big, and he's so old-fashioned, and he just thinks one way. And we'd go on a road. I never told you, Jim. We'd go on a road trip for a week. Hondo would bring a suitcase, but he'd only have one shirt in it, a one pair of underwear, and maybe one other pair of socks, and that's all that he'd have in it.
And nobody dares say a thing to him about it, right?
Oh, are you kidding? Everybody wore him out about it. And I remember our flights would land on good old Midwest Express or something. We'd land in the middle of the night, and it was, early in the season. So the weather's crappy in Milwaukee, and we land, and it's 2 a.m. And I could remember us getting off of the charter, and guys are in such a hurry to get home or back to their hotel or whatever they're going to do. And guys are, some of them, halfway intoxicated, and guys are laughing, and there's Hondo's suitcase, and it's so light because nothing's in it. It's blowing down the runway because there's nothing in it. And guys are laughing and robbing or Gumby or kicking it. And it just, you don't get that nowadays. You really don't.
You talk about, those days of like the Midwest Express, the days of County Stadium, you as a little, occasionally they'd send the news people out to do a story about, say, opening day, or, if lo and behold we got into the World Series. I had a great time during that World Series in '82. But but lo and behold, I can remember one time they send me out and they just come up with a formulaic idea of what you have to do for the opening day newscast, right? So it's okay, Wayne Scott, you do prices changing, and Michael B, you do changes on the field, and and I'm like, am I that nuanced about how County Stadium looks that I'm going to be able to tell people, have they changed the pitching mound or what? I mean, I want to do something that makes some sense. And so I walk out there, and the only thing I can see is it's some year that they just put this new speaker out in the middle of the back of the stage. It was and that was apparently what was the genesis of my story, to go out and talk about what was
a nickname for that thing, but I won't say that.
I kind of know what it had to be.
Is it a Jeff Bezos kind of thing, Johnny? A Jeff Bezos reference?
Yeah.
I go out there and I can see that thing. Okay, fine. That's new and attention. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't know what else is new here. So I see Charlie Moore, who's always such a decent guy. And I look at him and he goes, we had probably done some sort of an event together. And he said, Kathy, what's going on? I go, I don't know. I got this stupid assignment. I'm supposed to tell my viewers what's new at County Stadium this year. And the only thing I know is that speaker thing. And he goes, well, I'll help you out. I'm like, well, sure. And so I give him a microphone, and he remained under control, but I think he said, there's something really brand new here at County. I got a new bat. And he pulls out his bat and he starts talking about the features of this bat and how this bat is going to do amazing. I mean, it looks like a bat. It's your basic bat. And and then he told me about there was some other thing that had changed in the outfield that was important to him, and it meant nothing to me, but he walked me out there and showed it to me. And basically my story was, I opened the story saying, I came out here to tell you what was new at County Stadium. Of course, I noticed the speaker, but then I talked to Charlie Moore, and then I just had him do the entire story. And I signed off, like I had absolutely no business. I was completely, it was a topper. The guy really, really just took it over for me and fixed my whole story.
Well, what's funny is, of all people, it's Charlie Moore, who is from Birmingham, Alabama. So I don't know if Milwaukee people even understood him. So
yes, it was hilarious. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, but he was a cool guy.
Treb, I told Jim in a previous podcast about back in the days how guys would smoke in the dugout during games.
No way. I guess I knew that though.
Oh,
yeah. But one thing I should add to that is we had guys that during BP would wedge a cigarette in the webbing of their glove. And so then they'd go out for batting practice, and while they're shagging fly balls, occasionally you'd see them with the glove to their face, and they were hitting a cigarette that was wedged in their.
Well, no surprise at all. We're at the 2-minute warning. Kath, do you have a question for Trev within 2 minutes? We can finish up with.
Is there some decision you made that you wish you hadn't, that's a huge part of your life? I feel like you've had a perfect career. I know it was topsy-turvy, but I think it was a genuine career. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I've got no regrets. I no do-overs. I was very lucky. I mean, my story is unbelievable how I got where I got. I mean, because I was playing and I wasn't playing, and I was coaching and I wasn't coaching, and I was teaching school with kids at home, and I was back again. So it's a pretty amazing story. And I spent basically 51 years in pro baseball. So it's a pretty good run. No worries, no hurries, and it's all good.
Didn't Robin, Molly, and Gantner lobby for you to be the manager? I read
That's my understanding. Yeah. And a lot of the players knew me from the year before. I had them in AAA. And that was important. You talk about Dale Swaim. Dale Swaim is probably my all-time favorite player. They always ask about Ricky Henderson, and they talk to me about Robin Yount and Paul Molitor and being with Cal Ripken Jr. in Baltimore and Ryan Sandberg in Chicago. And my favorite's Dale Swaim because I knew what I was going to get, and I got it every
That's
time.
amazing.
And unfortunately, he had a broken leg that slowed him down, but he still had a great career and ended up coaching and managing and doing really good. So that's probably, everybody gives me credit for Ricky Henderson and stolen bases, because I had him his first 2 years. I was just smart enough to let him run. In fact, quick story, we were playing Fresno.
Not going to make it.
We were leading the league in stolen bases, and they were leading the league in home runs. And they got ahead by a little bit. They started playing behind us at first, so he wouldn't run. And I said, we're going to keep running. We're leading the league in stolen bases. We'll quit stealing if you quit trying to hit homers.